Hi. So I'm going to start this episode with a statement which I hope to prove throughout the episode, and that is the anti-GMO movement has a fundamental flaw. But first, anti-GMO opinions spread like wildfire with no information behind them. I bet there are a number of you that don't even know what it is. So, let's see. What does GMO stand for? So you don't know?
Genetically modified. I don't know what the O stands for, but that's what I'm assuming.
Okay.
So genetically modified food.
Organism. Ding, ding, ding. Why are they considered bad?
Because nobody knows what it is. Because it goes into our, it is a substance or a supplement that is put into our plants to raise them genetically, to make them, alter them in a different way, so it's away from the original source, or original food that we obtain.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Because they're not natural.
It's been altered, and they don't really know what the long-term effects of these altered foods can have on your body.
Altered, so we don't know what the effects are?
The long-term effects, because it's still a relatively new study.
My understanding is that they've been ripped of their nutrition and they're not organic and things like that.
GMO stands for genetically modified organism, as they said at the end there. But for why it's bad, let's wait a little bit later in the video, shall we? Really, everything in the supermarket has been modified, whether that's genetically or otherwise. The only really pure thing you can find is water. Unmessed with water. What was that? We have purified water? Well, crap. The genetic modification of food has lasted since the beginning of agriculture. You see, it was done by farmers through the process known as artificial selection or selective breeding. They do this to increase crop size and make food more desirable. And I know the whole internet is like, bananas don't have bones. It's not a boneless banana. Listen here, mouth breather. This is a regular banana. And if farmers hadn't selectively bred the bananas we usually have at the store, the boneless ones, you'd be eating those. Now, I'm not saying that selective breeding and genetically modified foods are the same thing. They're not. I'm just saying that genetically modifying the food, period, is not necessarily a bad thing. And if you had no information at all, you might have thought that. The difference between selective breeding and GMOs is that selective breeding takes traits that are already in the plant and makes it more prominent, whereas GMOs can take a trait that isn't in the plant at all and then add it. So now we get to the part to why GMOs are perceived as bad. It's not that they're genetically modified, it's how they're genetically modified and what we genetically modify them to do. There are two methods on how we genetically modify foods. The first method is a gene gun, and by gun I mean actual gun. A .22 caliber charge shoots a piece of metal that's coated in the selective trait at plant cells. How did they come up with this? Did someone just go, hey Bill, let's just shoot it. Let's just shoot the thing. That's how we can modify it. I'm telling you, man. I guess that takes target practice to a whole new level.
There, now they're herbicide resistant. Hoo-ha.
The second, and now preferred method, is using bacteria to insert the trait into the plant cells. Once the trait is inserted, seeds are cloned from the cells that take the trait. Anti-GMO activists are concerned that either at trait insertion, or the cloning process afterwards, or even at a later date, once the seed is grown, that random genetic mutations could happen that become harmful to humans. And there are some studies that suggest that GMOs actually might be harmful, but the scientific consensus is there's not enough data and not enough studies. So I will link in the description everything I can find, but ultimately, more needs to be done. Next we have the common traits that we actually genetically modify our food to have. The common traits are herbicide resistance, pesticide production, and viral resistance. Basically, herbicide resistance is so we can spray for weeds but not harm the plant. Pesticide production is where we actually have the plant produce its own pesticide so we don't have to apply it topically. And virus resistance is what it sounds, basically have the plant fight off diseases. And you might ask yourself, why do we add these traits? Well, it's to increase crop yield and add profits. It also has to do with how we're farming. You see, we produce too much crop in too little space with spent soil, so basically the plant can't defend itself. Not only that, but most modern fertilizers add to the problem. You see, artificial fertilizers are mostly nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium based. But plants are like us. They need lots of nutrients to grow strong and healthy. How do we expect a plant that isn't getting fed properly to defend itself, but feed us properly? So this is why I say the anti-GMO movement is flawed. They want to attack GMOs, but GMOs are the answer to all of our farming problems. So instead of wanting to get rid of GMOs, they should be fighting against our farming methods. So let me rephrase this for clarity and emphasis. Why are we changing our foods to fix problems with our farming? Let's just change the farming. But I'm not a proponent of local farming, man. We have 7.2 billion people on this planet. Big problems need big solutions. And I guess GMOs was the big solution of past generations. But just because that one sucked doesn't mean we shouldn't find our own. But I have to admit there is something to local farming. We just have to make it big. So basically we need vertical farming. And I feel that vertical farming solves all of the problems with farming. There are no pests, no weeds, and no viruses. We will not need GMOs as they are now. And if you're having trouble wrapping your head around vertical farming, think of it like the power plant in the Matrix. Basically, we feed the dead to the living, or in this instance fertilize, and we use it to power or feed us. Instead of people, it's fruits and vegetables. And if we change to vertical farming, GMOs will change with it. We won't need the GMOs of today. This is how I see GMOs changing. Instead of using the method we use today, we can use genetic modeling to speed up artificial selection. So that way, we can actually keep the integrity of the plant whole. So this is the end of the video, and I really hope I've changed your opinion. We need to stop fighting GMOs and start fighting our farming methods. Because if we change our farming methods, we fix more than the GMO problem. We stop hurting our soil and poisoning our water supply with all the fertilizer runoff. And if we actually do this, everyone will have easy access to fresh food. Anyway, this is Azarworth. Have a good day, good health, peace. So, we're at the outro screen again. If you haven't seen my first video, click here to see why good food is good for you and bad food is bad. And if you've already seen it, why don't you subscribe? Basically, I want to give you great content, but you need to know it's there. So, subscribe, and if you've already done that, maybe you could call your congressman and talk to them about vertical farming. Anyway, I'll see you guys later. Bye!